Hey guys, Tyler here, back again to talk about growing in intimacy with Jesus. Today, I want to talk about a subject that I think is really interesting because it's surprising and confusing. Namely, I want to talk about why it is so hard to receive from the Lord something that is better than we deserve and better than we have known in the past. So, I want to begin by looking at the Israelites in the Old Testament. They are so interesting. They are such a physical image or picture of what we are like spiritually in the New Covenant today. It's so interesting that in the Old Testament, the Israelites had such a hard time receiving the Promised Land. In the narrative, they eventually get so resistant to coming into the promised land that they say they'd rather go back into slavery than move forward with the Lord, because at least they knew that in their bondage they would receive onions and garlic and leeks and cucumbers and melons from their slave drivers. Now, you have to ask yourself when you look at that story, why on earth would you choose cucumbers over life with the Lord in the promised land, right? And I think the obvious answer is that the Israelites felt that at least when they were in slavery, they knew how the system worked and they could control it. If they made the bricks that the slave drivers were demanding, they knew they would get, onions and leeks and garlic out of it. Whereas with the Lord, they were being promised something way better than what was going to be offered in slavery, but they didn't know how the system worked and they couldn't control it. The old system was their world that they already understood. The new world, the new system was God's world, and he was the one in control of it, and they had to trust him in order to receive the better thing, right? Now, it seems crazy looking back on it, but I think if we search our hearts, it is really true that it is hard for us to be able to receive something, the better thing that the Lord has for us, because it involves trusting him. So in the gospels, in each of the gospels, Jesus said, if you love your own life, so if you insist upon your own way and what you get and what you can control, you will lose your life. But if you love the Lord and choose him above what you can control in your own world, you will gain your life. So that's such an interesting dynamic, obviously. And here's what I want to point out about it and say about it. In Psalm 63, David said, your love, Lord, is better than life itself. And so I think that is actually the magic revelation about it's like the recipe for success in the kingdom. The choice that the Israelites had in the Old Testament was not between the promised land and slavery. It wasn't this obvious choice between good and bad. Why would you choose bad? It was about control and trust, right? And how can you trust someone that you don't really know? And see, the secret to success in life, in every sphere, when you really see behind the curtain of how things work, is that verse from Psalm 63. David discovered the um, the recipe for breakthrough and success in life. He realized that knowing the Lord was worth sacrificing anything that you could gain in this world. There's no amount of onions, garlic, nice cars, beautiful homes, the perfect spouse, no amount of money. There's nothing you can gain. Even life itself. He didn't just say your love is better than any amount of possessions. He went as far as to say your love is better than life itself. And that is the secret to true breakthrough. It's not it's not like an ought to or you should think this way. It is a reality that when you taste it, you realize you desire it more than anything else. Knowing Jesus is so beautiful. It's so amazing. It's once you have tasted the goodness of the Lord, you realize, although you don't want to die, although you don't want to go without all the comforts of this world, you don't want to starve, you don't want a harder life, a more rigorous road necessarily, but when you taste the goodness and the beauty and the triumph and the superiority of who Jesus actually is, you would give up anything to have that. And so, again, the decision for the Israelites was not between, promised land and a hellish slavery, good versus bad. It was all the things, everything, every good thing you could possibly get in this physical life, or having the Lord. And see, because they never trusted the Lord, they never gave the Father an opportunity to prove to them how superior he was to anything else you can have in existence. Um, they never they never found that secret sauce. They never had that revelation where they could say genuinely from their own desire, I should keep the rest. I don't care. I just need to have you. The promised land would have been another version of slavery without choosing the Lord above anything they could get there. So, I wanted to share this pretty embarrassing story from my own life. I want to be vulnerable when I talk on this channel because I want to be real and I want to actually help people. So I'll just tell this embarrassing story about my own life. So when I was in my teens and 20s, I used to have bad skin. I would get zits all over my face, and I always found it super embarrassing. Like, to a fault. It was like clearly vanity, right? Let me put it out there, right? There was no good reason or, like, I don't know, morally sound reason. I just hated not looking good, and there were probably 100 other reasons why it really got under my skin. I think, like, deep down, it felt like I think I accused myself, like, this is like a moral failure. I must be doing something wrong, that all my friends look great and healthy and I look like a zitty mess or whatever. And for years I struggled with this, and I just put this out there. I was trying everything I could find, every face wash I could get my hands on to try and get rid of this problem. And it really bothered me, as I said. And so when I became a Christian, because I didn't become a born again committed Christian until college, the Lord it started becoming clear to me. Oh, this is standing in the way of my relationship, the depth of my relationship with the Lord, because I'm so self conscious and focused on this and distracted by it that it holds me back from being free and living in love. I'm sucked into thinking about myself, and it holds me back from being outgoing and being generous and thinking about others because my mind is too focused on thinking about myself and how others are perceiving me. And so eventually, like everything in this life, the Lord brings issues we're dealing with to a head. And the Lord showed me that I couldn't have both. I kept praying about it once I was a Christian. Jesus, will you just heal my skin? Like, how can you leave me in this way? Like, don't you love me? And wouldn't it be better if I were free so I didn't have to, think about myself as much? I was like trying to, bribe God or trick him. Um, and so finally, the Lord showed me that he was that this was a choice, like I was talking about earlier, not between the good life of having good skin and the bad life of having bad skin. The choice was actually between, because whether I had good skin or not, it was, are you going to love your own life, or are you going to love me more than your life? Would you rather have good skin or suffer by not having bad skin, by having bad skin, or would you rather have me regardless of what your skin looked like? And I realized, ooh, this was like a cross, a sacrifice. I realize I can't be fully released to him and have my heart given to him, loving him with my whole life, as long as I was living in this self-centeredness, self-focus, and vanity. And what I had to do in order, freedom was not having my skin healed. Freedom was trusting the Lord. No, freedom was choosing to love the Lord regardless of what my skin looked like. And so I can remember the day. I can remember where I was. I made a true, wholehearted decision. I am surrendering this to you. If I live the rest of my life with horrible skin, I accept that because I would rather be free in being able to focus on you and love you than have some possession or have the leeks and onions and garlic of slavery, of living in this world and the material blessings of this life. And I remember I took the current face creams that I was, washes that I was using at the time that I was like spending a lot of money on, and I threw them in the trash. And I knew I am never going back to that, regardless of what I look like. I just accept it because I knew that in doing that, I would be set free. I'd be released inside of my own soul to love the Lord. And the catharsis and joy and liberation of that moment in my life. I mean, I've had a few breakthroughs like that in my life, but I have to tell you, it was so glorious, and it was like the angels rejoiced. The one lost sheep came home, and all of heaven rejoiced. Um, that wasn't the moment of my salvation, but man, it was like it. It was like the moment of truly embracing the Lord. And I've had to do that in other areas of my life since then. But my point in saying all this, actually, I just want to add also that this is not at all why I did this, but it's just amazing the way the Lord works. It was probably not more than a month after that, I would say, that my bad skin went away, and I have hardly had a zit in my life since then in 20 something years. So it's just hilarious the way that Jesus works and the way that the kingdom works. But I say all that to say, guys, that it is truly the case that knowing the Lord and being free in embracing Him and loving Him and turning our lives over to going the way that He wants to lead us in life is better than any other thing that we could ever gain in this world. But you can only discover that for yourself personally in one way. And it's not by hearing what other people say about it, it's by taking the risk of laying everything down so that you are free to embrace Him with a whole heart. And it's in embracing Him and choosing, no matter what the cost is, no matter what it looks like, I'm going to have you, that we discover the reality of that truth. So, I want to just lay that challenge before you today that um, true freedom, true fulfillment, true breakthrough, our ability in life to receive the better things, the promised land that the Lord, our God, our Father has for us, is contingent upon being willing to embrace Him above and beyond anything else that this world can offer. And once we make that choice, it's so crazy the way that the kingdom works. But, it's like there's so many scriptures that when you look at them in light of what I'm talking about, you're like, oh, that's how that makes sense. Like, for instance, seek first the kingdom, his kingdom and his righteousness, and all the rest will be added to you. Right? I mean, uh, so interesting that once I turned my life over to loving Jesus more than my own appearance and that my insecurities about my appearance, like a month later, after probably over a decade of being insecure about it, suddenly never had a problem with that again. Right? It was that healing or whatever you want to call it was added to me once I embraced him fully. And embracing his kingdom, by the way, is nothing more than embracing Jesus. You know, embracing the king is embracing the kingdom. So yeah, so that's that, guys. That is my thought for today. I want to take a minute and just sit in that reality. I'm going to open my heart up afresh to that reality, and I invite you to do the same with me. What a profound, amazing truth it is, Jesus, that you are better than life itself. That's the only living in that place is the only place where true freedom is found. Liberty and joy and peace, all of heaven can only be found. It can't be found in being, you could be the king of the whole world, and it would never lead to the freedom that embracing you above all those things gives us. So we just open our heart to that reality. I open my heart to that reality afresh in the context that I'm in today. And I want to choose to embrace it with my brothers and sisters that are seeing this video right now. You know, Jesus said, whoever comes to me, I will never drive away. And what he was talking about in saying that was this reality that we're talking about. It's not coming to him in passing or, you know, out of inquiry and interest, like, oh, Jesus, what are you about? He's talking about anyone that comes to him to truly lay their lives down and put him first beyond anything else in their lives. He will never drive that person away, no matter how screwed up they were and their life was before the moment that they decide to do that. He will never drive a person away, no matter who they were, no matter who you are, no matter where you're at, no matter what you've done. If you come to the living, triumphant King with a heart to embrace him above and beyond anything else, he's going to receive you. And it's so interesting to be in that place because when you come to that table that the Lord has set before you, that invitation to something better than you could ever attain by your own efforts in this life. There are a million enemies and those who are resisting uh, anyone coming into that freedom. It's the powers of the air, the spiritual forces of this world, and the enemies of God, and all the people from our past who think they know who we are because they've seen what we've done. All of that world, they will be railing against us abiding, learning to abide in that place of freedom in the Lord. But once you've trusted Him in that place, He becomes your defense. The fact that He receives you means that no one else can reject you. No one can make you leave that place of joy and freedom in His kingdom once you have embraced Him because He upholds you in it. So I just pray for you, if you're watching this video, that you will be able to receive the grace that you don't deserve, but that God has for you in Jesus, to be received into the joy and peace and freedom of His kingdom. It's all for His glory. He loves you and wants to give it to you. And it is our choice to trust Him to uphold us. Um, and in that choice, man, that is where everything that the human heart desires is found. So dive into it, guys. Trust the Lord, and He will show you how to live there. I hope this is an encouragement to you. I pray that God bless you, and I hope to be back again soon doing more of these thoughts. God bless, guys.